Real Talk Sports, woo! Real Talk Sports, baby. Pod19, NFL Week 11. I am here holding it down for the squad. Real Talk Sports, Pod19, NFL Week 11 again. We appreciate all the listeners, all the fans, all the love. We've been feeling it. Y'all keep it going so we can take over a network sooner than later. I am your host today, Scott Baker. Real Talk Sports. My friend and I are not with me today. They have booked out their schedule again and forgot about me. So it's all good. Definitely show love to my fellas out there making it happen and making money. We're never mad about that. Again, this is Real Talk Sports. We're going to get right into it, man. You know, we're going to start out with that NFL. Last week's slate of games. First off, you know, we're going to take you through a progress because we got a lot to talk about today. We got NFL, MLB, NBA, WNBA. We got all kind of stuff going on, man. The sports world is going nuts right now, and I love it. So without further ado, like I said, NFL Week 10, the scores from last week. The Indianapolis Colts beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 27-10. Andrew Luck had 7 rushes for 11 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cecil Shorts had 6 receptions and 106 yards and 1 TD for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a bright spot because their receiving core is horrible. Has anybody seen their first round pick, Justin Blackmon? Let me know if y'all holler at him, man, because I need to talk to him and see what's going on with him catching the ball. Last week's game, my Detroit Lions fall to the Minnesota Vikings, 24-34. Matthew Stafford was 28 for 42, 329 yards, 3 TDs and 1 interception. For Minnesota, Christian Ponder was 24 of 32, 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. This one stung a little bit. I really wanted Detroit to beat Minnesota and split this thing because they've already lost one to them earlier in the season. I don't know, my Lions are having a problem getting going in the first half. If we can play the first half like we do the second half, we'll be fine because no team in professional football scores more points than the Detroit Lions in the second half. So come on, fellas, let's tighten that up. Let's get it right, man. We got Green Bay this week, and that's going to be rough. Next up from last week's schedule, another heartbreaker for me. I really just had a rough week as a fan. My A-team, my Atlanta Falcons, go out to New Orleans and lose. The Falcons lost their first game. The 8-0 undefeated Falcons took their first loss to the New Orleans Saints. 27-31 in the Superdome. Matt Ryan, 34 of 52, 411 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interception, new career high. Drew Brees, 21 of 32, 298 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interception. It was a dogfight, like we knew it was going to be, and my Falcons dropped the ball. We had plenty of chances to win this game, and we didn't. You know, for lack of a better word, I'm not going to make no excuses. The Saints came to play. They ran the ball extremely well. All 3 of their running backs ran better than what they usually do because, as you know, one of their lead backs is Darren Sproles. He was hurt, so that left Pierre Thomas, Mark Ingram, and Chris Ivory, who just ran roughshod over us. All their numbers pretty much doubled. Chris Ivory had a run that absolutely crushed us. He topped his career high for rushing. It was just an ugly game, man. We lost that game. Julio got hurt. The Falcons did not play a bad game. They just didn't finish this one. I really wanted them to push the gas on the Saints, and we didn't, so we got our first loss. We'll see them again in 3 weeks. Next up on the slate from last week's games, the New York Giants get beat by the Cincinnati Bengals, 31-13. Oh, this is ugly. They were in Cincinnati. Andre Brown had 7 rushes for 65 yards and 1 TD for the Giants. And for Cincinnati, Andy Dalton was 21 of 30, 199 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's nothing to say really, but Cincinnati just put it to the Giants this game. Eli played horribly. He made some bad decisions, threw some bad balls. Good thing the Giants have a bye week. They're going to need it, definitely. Next up from last week's slate, the Baltimore Ravens defeat the Oakland Raiders 55-20 in Baltimore. Carson Palmer for the Oakland Raiders was 29 of 45, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. And for Baltimore, Joe Flacco was 21 of 33, 341 yards, 3 TDs and 1 interception. That was an ugly game. Next up from last week's slate, the New England Patriots were 37, the Buffalo Bills 31. The Patriots pull out a squeaker. Buffalo has been playing a lot better. For the Buffalo Bills, Fred Jackson had 16 rushes for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. For the Patriots, Tom Brady was 23 of 38, 237 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Miami Dolphins fell to the Tennessee Titans at home, 37-3. Godly. And this is big for Tennessee, seeing as how last week their owner called them out and pretty much said everybody's job is up in the air. They responded very well. Jake Locker played this week for Tennessee. He was 9 of 21, 122 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And for Miami, Brian Hartline, the receiver, had 8 receptions for 79 yards. I don't know what happened in this game. Miami completely fell apart. Yeah. Shout out to y'all. Hope y'all get it together for next week, man. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the San Diego Chargers 34-24 in Tampa Bay. For San Diego, Phillip Rivers was 29 of 37, 337 yards, 3 TDs, and 2 interceptions. For Tampa Bay, Josh Freeman was 14 of 20, 210 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Denver Broncos defeat the Carolina Panthers 36-14 in Carolina. For Denver, Peyton Manning was 27 of 38, 301 yards, 1 touchdown. For Carolina, Greg Olsen had 9 receptions for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks beat the New York Jets in Seattle 28-7. For the Jets, Sean Green had 15 rushes, 58 yards. And for the Seahawks, Russell Wilson was 12 of 19, 188 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Seattle team is rounding out, man. If Russell Wilson can pick this offense up a little bit, this team will be phenomenal because, as we know, their defense is top 3 in the NFL. The San Francisco 49ers tied. When's the last time you heard a tie? The San Francisco 49ers tied with the St. Louis Rams 24-24. They went to overtime and they couldn't win it, man. St. Louis actually had a chance to win this game, and they called a timeout at the last minute in overtime, and their kicker made the kick. They iced their own kicker, and then when they came back, of course, he missed it. For the St. Louis Rams, Sam Bradford was 26 of 39, 275 yards, 2 TDs. For the San Francisco 49ers, Frank Gore had 21 rushes for 97 yards and 1 TD. Wow, when's the last time? I think we haven't had a tie since something like 94. It's been a while. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles fall to the Dallas Cowboys in Philadelphia. Michael Vick getting knocked out of this game is going to be Nick Foles' team from here on out, I believe. For Dallas, Tony Romo was 19 of 26, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns. For Philadelphia, Jeremy Maclin had 8 receptions, 93 yards, and 1 TD. I hate seeing Mike Vick go down, you know. I'm a big Mike Vick supporter based off everything he's been through and how he's came back. We don't know how long he's going to be out with concussion protocol. It could be 2-3 weeks. We'll find out, but I believe they want to see what the rookie Nick Foles has at this point anyways, because as we know, that team is going to be blown up at the end of the season, and a lot of those parts will be gone. So, next up from the slate from last week, the Chicago Bears fall to the Houston Texans 13-6. And again, the starting quarterback was knocked out of this game. Jay Cutler was knocked out. So next week we will see Jason Campbell starting for the Chicago Bears. For Houston, Arian Foster had 29 rushes, 102 yards. For Chicago, Brandon Marshall had 8 receptions, 107 yards. And the last game of last week, the Monday night game, the Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Kansas City Chiefs in a very close game, 16-13, and they were in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. For Kansas City, Jamal Charles had 23 rushes for 100 yards and 1 touchdown. And Big Ben Roethlisberger, another starting quarterback, was knocked out of this game. He was 9 of 18 for 84 yards and 1 touchdown. So next week for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we will be seeing Byron Leftwich starting. And the Pittsburgh Steelers will be playing their rival, the Baltimore Ravens. What a week to have your backup quarterback come in the game. And that's our slate for last week, man. We're going to keep it rolling with the NFL for this week's slate of games. The Thursday night game, which was a few days ago, the Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins in Buffalo 19-14. That Buffalo defense finally showed up. Mario Williams was making plays. Marcel Darius was making plays. You know, they played extremely well. For Miami, Devon Best had 6 receptions, 60 yards, and 1 touchdown. For Buffalo, C.J. Spiller, 22 rushes, 91 yards. Like I said, Buffalo is finally rounding out. They're finally looking like somewhat of a resemblance of a team. We'll see how far they go throughout the duration of the season. I'm interested to see because I have no clue. They have this analyst stumped. And for the rest of this week's slate of games, the 1-6 Kansas City Chiefs host the 4-5 Cincinnati Bengals. That's going to be interesting. Cincinnati's coming off a huge win. I don't think Kansas City has a chance. It's going to be a very, very interesting game. I'm going to call this game Cincinnati 24, Kansas City 13. 24-13. Kansas City just hasn't figured it out. They haven't put it together, which is surprising because if you look at their roster on paper, they look good. But, again, we'll see. Next up, the 8-1 Houston Texans welcome the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are sitting at 1-8. I don't think this is going to be much of a contest. You don't even have to start Matt Schaub. You don't have to start Arian Foster. You can pretty much see what you got out of some of your younger players because Jacksonville just played awful. I don't think the team is responding well to Mike Mularkey's system. I believe Blaine Gabbert is having a lot of growing pains. He's still trying to figure it out. They're banged up in a lot of different offensive areas at running back. They have no consistency at receiver. I just don't see this Jaguars team having a chance. I see it being ugly, something like 35-10. And I'm being nice to Jacksonville, giving them 10 points. Next up on the slate, the St. Louis Rams at 3-5-1 host the New York Jets, who are at 3-6. I think this game is going to be huge. I've been trying to support the Jets all season for many different reasons. And they've had a rough run. They've lost their two best players to injury in Darrelle Revis and Santonio Holmes. But again, playing St. Louis, they are pretty evenly matched because St. Louis hasn't been playing great. St. Louis' defense has been playing good, but their offense is still rounding out. So I'm going to call this game Jets 17-14. Next up on the slate, the 4-5 Dallas Cowboys welcome the 2-7 Cleveland Browns. And this is going to be an interesting game because Dallas, as we know, is an underachieving team. And the Cleveland Browns, you don't know what to expect week to week. One week they look awful, and the next week they'll play Baltimore in a close game, 6-7. So I'm going to give the edge to Dallas because they're at home. They're 1-2 at home this season, and Cleveland is 0-4 on the road. So I'm going to give this edge to Dallas. We're going to say 24-7. I'll give Cleveland a touchdown. Next up on the slate, the 2-7 Carolina Panthers host the 5-4 who have caught fire Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is going to be a great divisional game. As you know, these are guys in my NFC South division. Carolina has been on the bubble all season, and in late in games they haven't made good decisions. Tampa Bay is a team that's starting to catch fire and they're starting to figure it all out. Josh Freeman is playing lights out. Doug Martin is playing lights out at tailback. Vincent Jackson is catching everything thrown in his direction. I think Tampa Bay is going to beat Carolina in this one. Carolina is 1-4 at home, and Tampa Bay is 2-2 on the road. So yeah, I'm going to give the edge in this one to Tampa Bay. I'm going to say it's going to be very close, 24-20. Cam Newton barely figures it out. And Cam, please just don't lose your head and don't have a bad press conference because they're riding you, man. And I really like you. I really like Cam Newton. Next up on the slate, my 8-1 Atlanta Falcons are hosting the 4-5 Arizona Cardinals, and this better be an ass whooping. I expect my Falcons to come out and avenge themselves from last week's loss to the Saints. As you know, the Falcons are 4-0 at home this season, and the Arizona Cardinals, who started out 4-0, are 1-3 on the road. So I got this game being ugly, 31-3. Falcons. I expect that defense. We should get a boost back from getting Sean Witherspoon back. A lot of our injured players are coming back. Julio is questionable, but I honestly don't think we need Julio to play against the Cardinals. No disrespect to the Cardinals, but I just think as far as receiving core, we have a pretty full stable. So we have guys capable of filling in admirably. So as I said it before, the Falcons should beat the fire out of the Cardinals, and anything less is uncivilized. And next up on the slate, we have my 4-5 Detroit Lions at home hosting the Green Bay Packers at 6-3. Another great divisional game. Detroit is 2-1 at home, and Green Bay is 2-2 on the road. I think this would be a much closer game than what people believe. These two teams always play each other well. Aaron Rodgers is 6-1 versus the Detroit Lions. But as you know, he was knocked out of the game last season. Matt Flynn stepped in when he was still a Packer and threw the lights out. But we still beat the Green Bay Packers. So I got this game. Of course, Detroit winning against Green Bay. It's going to be close. It's going to be something like 23-20. The Lions. Matt Stafford will figure it out. Him and Megatron will have a big first half. And by the time the second half comes around, instead of us having to win the game, we'll have to manage it. So shout out to those Lions. I'm looking for big things. I haven't given up on y'all. Let's get it. Next up on the slate, the 3-6 Washington Redskins host the 3-6 Philadelphia Eagles. Washington is 1-3 at home, and Philadelphia is 1-3 on the road. This is a very evenly matched game. Both of these teams have dealt with a rash of injuries. They've had a bit of bad luck this season. They've dealt with adversity. I think these are two very similar teams. On offense for Washington, of course, you have RG3, and they'll be welcoming back his best receiver, Pierre Garçon. With Philadelphia, they'll be starting their rookie for the first week, Nick Foles. He has a lot of offensive weapons. The team responded to him playing well last week when Michael Vick was put out of the game. So I call this game is going to be extremely close. But I'm going to give the edge to Washington. I just think, RG3 is real and they've lost a few games. And he's going to want to get back on that horse. So I'm going to give the edge to Washington. I'm going to say 27-20 Washington. Next up on the slate for this week's games, the 3-6 Oakland Raiders host the 4-5 New Orleans Saints, who have seemed to caught fire. Oakland is 2-2 at home. New Orleans is 1-3 on the road. New Orleans is playing well, even though I really don't like this team because they're my team's biggest rival. They've been playing well. Their offense has been playing extremely well. Pretty much the Saints, if you let them score 30 points, they're going to beat you. Because that defense that they have isn't stopping anybody, but they just outscored you. I think they'll go out to Oakland and beat Oakland. Oakland has a decent defense, though. Don't sleep on their defense. I believe Darren McFadden is still hurt, so that's going to hurt Oakland. But I'm going to give the edge to New Orleans. The score will be 35-17. New Orleans Saints. Next up on the slate, the 6-3 Denver Broncos are at home, and they host the 4-5 San Diego Chargers, another divisional game. Denver's 3-1 at home this season, and San Diego is 2-3 on the road. I think this will be just like the first game. It'll be probably a little bit better though. The first game, San Diego was leading the first half, something like 24-0, and Denver came back and beat them, the biggest comeback in NFL history. So this game, I think Peyton has it a little bit better figured out. He knows what he's dealing with as far as his weapons, and he knows what to expect better with San Diego and how they play Denver. So I'm going to give the edge definitely to Denver because they're looking like a team unstoppable right now. It's going to be 30-20, Denver. San Diego, I don't like this team. Phillip Rivers looks horrible. He always disappoints me. I don't know if he needs a coaching change or a scene change. But clearly something in San Diego has to change because they're not playing up to snuff at all. Not with that team. Every year in the preseason, there are always preseason picks for the playoffs and even the Super Bowl. I never pick this team. They're always horrible. They always disappoint me. I would hate to be a Chargers fan. Next up on the slate, the 6-3 New England Patriots are at home, and they host the 6-3 Indianapolis Colts, which is quite a surprise. That Colts team is led by Andrew Luck, the rookie, who is playing lights out. Indianapolis is 2-2 on the road. New England is 3-1 at home. This might be my upset alert of the week. Definitely, I think this is the upset alert. I'm going to give theirs to Indianapolis. I know it seems illogical and unheard of that the Indianapolis Colts, with their first-year rookie, beat the New England Patriots. But this Colts team is playing very, very inspired. As you know, their coach has leukemia. He's been out, Chuck Pagano. So their offensive coordinator, Bruce Arians, has been running the team. But this team has been playing inspired for their coach. And I love the Colts right now. I have not much bad to say about them. Of course, they got some growing up to do, but the way they're playing right now, man, I would be afraid to see them grown up. Because right now, they're looking great. Reggie Wayne is playing great. I'm going to give the edge to the Colts. It's going to be a very close game, 31-27, Indianapolis Colts. Tom Brady's going to lose a heartbreaker, and he's going to lose his mind. And I love Tom Brady, but I don't know. This is my upset of the week. I just feel it. Call it endless intuition. Next up on the slate, the 6-3 Pittsburgh Steelers host the 7-2 Baltimore Ravens. Another divisional game. This is going to be a great game. I believe this is going to be a low-scoring defensive game. Pittsburgh is starting their backup quarterback, Byron Leftwich. But actually, to the Pittsburgh Steelers' credit, their backups, they probably have some of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. They've had to carry the team before when Big Ben was hurt. This team is a very, very strong, tight-knit team. And, of course, Byron Leftwich is not as good of or as capable of a passer as Ben Roethlisberger, but he's definitely serviceable, and he knows this offense, and he knows this team. Man. This game is going to be hard to call. I think the score is going to be 13-10. I just don't know who's going to have 13 and who's going to have 10. I want to give the edge to Baltimore just for the fact that they are playing better, because they've dealt with injuries, of course, to Ray Lewis and Ladarius Webb, which has hurt them a lot, but they got Terrell Suggs back, and he's starting to get in shape and rounding into form. Joe Flacco, Torrey Smith, I love that combination. So, yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Baltimore in this one, 13-10. And the last game for this week, the Monday night game, which I can't wait to watch, the 6-2-1 San Francisco 49ers host the 7-2 Chicago Bears. San Francisco is 3-1-1 at home, and Chicago is 3-1 on the road. San Francisco, they have the advantage in this game, not only just being at home, but Chicago lost its starting quarterback in Jay Cutler again. And it's funny because I believe they were 7-3 last season when Cutler went down, and he missed the rest of the season. And that offense looked horrible without Cutler. They are better prepared this year. They have Jason Campbell now as their backup quarterback. I think he's going to do a great job. I just don't know if it'll be good enough to beat San Francisco because, as you know, San Francisco is in the top 5 in the NFL as far as teams defensively and offensively. I see, it's funny because San Francisco, I don't believe, will be starting their starting quarterback. I think Alex Smith is out as well. They're still on the fence. Out of all the starting quarterbacks who obtained concussions last week, Alex Smith has the highest possibility to start on Monday night. So, it'll be interesting, but either way, even if it's Alex Smith or Colin Kaepernick, I think San Francisco wins this game against Chicago. That Bears defense is serious, though. You can't discredit them at all. But I'm still going to give the edge to San Francisco. I believe it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be 19-14, San Francisco. And they're at home, too, man. Chicago's been playing well, but it's time for them to kind of come back to earth. Like I said, I definitely won't discredit that defense. Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Peanut Tillman, Jennings. All these guys are playing great. This defense could carry Chicago to a win. I'm just concerned about that offense with Cutler being out because, as you know, he does so many dynamic things with the ball that not many other quarterbacks can do. So it'll be interesting. That's our slate of games for this week, man. I'm trying to keep it rolling. It's always interesting me doing the show by myself without my Fernandi because I'm used to having him here to bounce things off of. But, I'm going to do my best to hold it down, man. You know me. I'm not going to complain. We're going to make this thing happen. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, with my NFL, that's pretty much it for the NFL, man. Like I said, my teams, the Falcons, are coming off a devastating loss to the Saints. It'll pay dividends, though. I'd rather it happen earlier in the season than later, because I don't believe we were going to go undefeated. But I just thought we would win a few more games before we lost. And I hate losing to the Saints, honestly. I hate losing to the Saints. But, yeah, everybody's, for the most part with the Falcons that were injured is coming back healthy. Like I said, our biggest two were Julio and Sean Witherspoon. Witherspoon practiced, I believe, yesterday. But he's been slow all week, but they're making him a game-time decision. And Julio, the same thing with his ankle. He hasn't practiced all week, but he'll be a game-time decision. And like I said, I think we can sit on Julio for a week because after the Falcons play the Cardinals at home, we got 2 division games. We got Tampa Bay, and then we got New Orleans again. So for both of those games, I would like us to have our full stable of horses because, as you know, division games get played a lot harder than most other games. And our division is very competitive. We've picked it up. Outside of Carolina, Tampa Bay and the Saints have been playing great these past 2 or 3 weeks. So it'll be definitely a big challenge for my Falcons. Not too big of a challenge, but it'll be a big enough challenge for us to come with our A game. And with my Detroit Lions, we just got to pick it up. We got to get some scoring. We got to get some points. We got to get some offensive motivation. We got to get some things moving, man. We got to get that thing cracking because first half we've been outscored the entire season. Second half, those 4 games we won in the second half. So with y'all being able to do that, and I think we're trying to force the run too much. You know, as we know, last season, Detroit was so dynamic and came out of the gate strong because of the passing game, because of Calvin Johnson, because of Nate Burleson. You know, and this year, we've been trying to run the ball more, and Calvin's been banged up. So it's been a mix of a lot of things. They've been running a 3-tackle package, you know, where they bring in our rookie Riley Reef and they put him on an extra tackle so we can run the ball better, but it hasn't paid dividends. You know, Michael Ashore has had his moments where he's looked good in his first season actually running the ball. Jaquai Bell has looked good. Like I said, we got some issues in that secondary, but they're trying to address it. We still haven't had Louis Delmas and Amari Spivey, our 2 biggest defensive players. They've been injured all season and even in the preseason. So the Lions are overcoming a lot, man. Don't give up on them yet, Lions fan. I haven't given up on them. You know, they're just my B team right now. My Falcons is my A team. The Lions are my B team. It is what it is. And we're going to keep this thing moving on, man. That's our segment for NFL. I don't believe I've forgotten anything. I think I've covered all of the NFL news, the scores, the highlights. Anything that you got to say to me or you want to question or any concerns you have with the show or anything you like for us to talk about more, all of that, man, let us know, man. You know, and shout out again to my Fernandi who are making that money and doing their thing. I'm missing y'all this week, but I'm sure I have y'all back next week. So it's all good. We're going to move forward, baby. Next up, the NBA, man. The NBA is going down. The season is underway. Up until a few days ago, the New York Knicks have came out the gate hot. They were 6-0, undefeated. They just lost their first game to the Grizzlies. It's been a good season, man. It's been a very interesting season. And actually, as far as the NBA, the ratings have been up this year. As far as this being one of the better years, like when people used to follow Michael Jordan, we're getting those type of ratings again. So it's good to see the NBA to get back on their feet because they had kind of fell off for a little while. The past few years, the NBA, the numbers wasn't up as far as fans and people watching the games. But I think the past couple of seasons with all the big trades and additions and the way the teams are rounding out now is upping interest, which is good for the NBA. You know, just keep that thing going, man. I'm going to go over the game for the NBA from yesterday, Friday, November 16th. The Dallas Mavericks fall to the Indiana Pacers, 103-83. For Dallas, O.J. Mayo had 19 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. For Indiana, George Hill had 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists. The Philadelphia 76ers beat the Utah Jazz 99-93. For Utah, Paul Millsap had 22 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. For Philadelphia, Drew Holiday had 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. The Detroit Pistons lost a close one to the Orlando Magic, 110-106. For Orlando, J.J. Redick had 23 points, 1 rebound, and 5 assists. For Detroit, Greg Monroe had 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 assist. That's what's up because he's on my fantasy team. Next up from yesterday's game, the New Orleans Hornets fall to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 110-95. For Oklahoma City, Kevin Durant had 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. For New Orleans, Ryan Anderson had 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 assist. That's a young and up-and-coming team with that New Orleans Hornets team. I like them, man. Shout out to Anthony Davis. He's on my fantasy team, too. I need you to put up bigger numbers, baby. Next up from yesterday's game, the Minnesota Timberwolves fall to the Golden State Warriors, 106-98. For Golden State, David Lee had 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 assists. For Minnesota, Derek Williams had 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists. The Memphis Grizzlies, as I alluded to earlier, gave the New York Knicks their first loss last night, 105-95. For New York, Raymond Felton had 18 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists. For Memphis, Big Z, Zach Randolph had 20 points, 15 rebounds, and no assists. And there was also a story coming out earlier this week that Zach Randolph and Kendrick Perkins had an altercation in the locker room when Oklahoma visited Memphis. And I'm still getting the word on that. We don't have all the clear word of the story. It's kind of being kept hush-hush. But as soon as I get the information, y'all will get the information. Next up, the Sacramento Kings lost to my Atlanta Hawks, 112-96. For Atlanta, Kyle Korver had 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. For Sacramento, Jason Thompson had 19 points, 10 rebounds, and no assists. I'm still trying to figure this Atlanta team out. As you know, we got rid of Joe Johnson and Marvin Williams in the offseason and brought in a bevy of players with Anthony Morrow, Devin Harris, Lou Williams. We got a lot of new players, Kyle Korver. And actually, they've been playing well together. I really like Lou Williams. Kyle Korver has came on strong. I'm still kind of iffy about Devin Harris, and I know there's still moves to be made. There's also been a potential trade talking about the Lakers shipping Paul Gasol to the Hawks for Josh Smith. And I don't know how I feel about that. I hope that doesn't happen. I'm not that high on Paul Gasol. He's at the back end of his career. And if we're going to trade Jay Smooth, I'd rather get something bigger and better for him. Next up, the Portland Trailblazers defeat the Houston Rockets 119-117 in a very close game. This game went into overtime. For Houston, James Harden had 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. And for Portland, Nicholas Batum, wow, 35 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. That Portland team has been playing very inspired, and specifically, Nicholas Batum has been playing excellent. If you don't have him on your fantasy, get him, baby, because I've been trying to, and the guy that I won't trade him to me, but it's all good. And the last game for yesterday, the LA Lakers beat up on the Phoenix Suns, 114-102. For Phoenix, Goran Dragic had 22 points, 2 rebounds, and 7 assists. For LA, Kobe had 31 points, 2 rebounds, and 6 assists. Now, this is a big game because, as you know, in big, typical LA fashion, of course, in the offseason, they signed Dwight Howard and Steve Nash. And they also have Antoine Jameson and Jody Meek. Those are their new arrivals. So then this season, they start the season out. They got Coach Mike Brown, the ex-Cleveland Cavaliers coach who used to coach LeBron. 5 games into the season, the Lakers were 0-5. So they get rid of Mike Brown. And just last week, they hire Mike D'Antoni, the ex-coach of the New York Knicks and the Phoenix Suns. And as you know, this coach is known for his offensive prowess. His teams have always been known to score 100-plus points a game. But on the defensive side, D'Antoni doesn't really coach defense, and I thought that would be an issue and a problem. Now, the controversy out of LA was making a play for Phil Jackson. But for whatever reason, the lines got jumbled and things got twisted, and they ended up hiring D'Antoni without even fully interviewing Phil Jackson. And there's been a lot of controversy coming out about that. Laker Nation has not been excited. I think, when it comes to D'Antoni and Phil Jackson, it's not even close. Phil Jackson should have been the coach of this team. People are trying to come out and co-sign for D'Antoni, but I just don't see it, man. You need a coach that values defense, and D'Antoni doesn't. And though they do have Dwight Howard and Metta World Peace, who are 2 great defenders, you need that whole team playing defense. And you got the reunitedness of Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni, because as you know, D'Antoni was Steve Nash's coach in Phoenix, so that works well. And the players are familiar with D'Antoni. He's coached the USA basketball team. He's done a lot of other things. He has a good reputation, but I just don't know how this will bode well for throughout the season, especially the playoffs, because they're not going to win like that. LA's not going to outscore you every night. They're not going to score 130 points every game, because that's what they would need to win consistently. And it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Shout out to you, Lakers. Like I said, I love Dwight Howard. Y'all look good on paper. And it'll be very, very, very interesting to see how this pans out. In other NBA news, Houston Rockets rookie forward Royce White has had a rough season already, man. It hasn't even been that deep in. As you know, Royce White has anxiety issues, and he's afraid of flying. So in negotiating his rookie contract, the team factored in bus trips for him. All of the certain games that were too far away, they were going to pay for bus transportation for him. And transportation because he's extremely afraid of flying. Well, his anxiety issues have gotten the best of him. He told the team last week that if he were to get more minutes or even start, it would help with his anxiety disorder. Nice try, Royce, but it doesn't quite work like that. And so he's had a rough rookie run. They gave him a D-League assignment. They want him to go get some minutes in the D-League because he hasn't played a minute yet on the floor this season. So, in them trying to develop this rookie, and shout out to Houston for even being patient enough to take on a guy with an anxiety disorder and willing to do all the things that they've done for him to accommodate that. But pretty much him and the team have not been getting along. he's wanted to play, and they haven't let him. You know, they gave him a D-League assignment. He ignored that, didn't show up. They had a few team activities this week. He didn't show up. So he's starting to get fined, and, you know, people are starting to murmur, you know, should they have taken this risk? Because his GM has already taken heat for even drafting him knowing his issues. Because most GMs in the NBA would not take on that type of a player just for the fact of everything that they have to do to accommodate him. So, Royce White, please, man, get back up to Houston. Get back with your team and do what you got to do, man. I know you have some things going on, but if you would like to have an NBA career and be an ambassador for anxiety disorder and overcoming that, you need to go back to Houston, because no other team's going to touch you, brother. And if Houston releases you, cuts you, whatever, I think that's it for your NBA career, because you haven't shown enough. You haven't been good enough of a player to deal with these issues. So keep that in consideration. People got to remember this is a business, man. It's a business first. So shout out to Royce White and everything that he has going on, man. You know, and we're going to keep the show rolling along. I believe I've covered everything for NBA to this point. Next up, we're going to cover a little MLB. It's not much going on, but as always, I like to cover everything. So without further ado, next up in MLB news, it's a lot going on actually. A lot of trades, man. A lot of big rumors, a lot of things flying around. But first up, the Toronto Blue Jays signed Melky Cabrera to a 2-year, $16 million deal. As you know, Melky Cabrera was suspended this season for illegal drug use, pretty much. He came from the San Francisco Giants, who just won another title against my Detroit Tigers. It'll be interesting to see how this works out, because, as you know, Toronto is rebuilding and they need some marquee players. Melky had a good season before everything fell apart. And we'll see how that works out, man. And shout out to my boy, Miguel Cabrera with the Detroit Tigers. He did win the MVP for the AL, and Buster Posey of the San Francisco Giants won it for the NL. And as you know, Miguel Cabrera also won the Triple Crown this year with the Detroit Tigers. So it was a very good year for Miguel, man. You know, even though we lost in the World Series, he still individually did some great things. There's a lot of other things going on, a lot of different transactions. The Detroit Tigers signed right fielder Torrey Hunter. That should be a good move for the team, and we've had some weaknesses in that department. And the Atlanta Braves also signed Gerald Lyard, the catcher. And as you know, the Braves are going to need a lot of help. Chipper retired this year. We lost a few other players to free agency. It'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. And I think the biggest news for baseball is this Miami Marlins trade, or potential trade. Toronto's trying to become more competitive, man. As you know, they're in a loaded AL East. And they want to be competitive. They just haven't been. So in the trade, the Miami Marlins are willing to give up their all-star shortstop Jose Reyes, left-hander Mark Buell, and right-hander Josh Johnson. And for those three great players, they would be getting Yunel Escobar, Aidani Hachavarria, and Henderson Alvarez, and 4 prospects. Not really a balanced deal. And then when you consider how the Miami Marlins just built that new stadium, pretty much paid off of tax dollars. You know, they've 1 year in and they get all these big name free agents and all these players. Then you get rid of them. Then you try to get rid of them and send them out to Toronto. It does not bode well for your fans, for your communities, for any of that. You know, because the problem is, what are the Miami Marlins getting back that's going to make them competitive? And the answer is not much. I mean, you know, you can speculate what you would get with those 4 prospects, but for the other 3 gentlemen that are being traded, they're not as good as the players that Miami's giving up. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. Bud Selig is still working on even allowing this trade to happen, because it's a lot of question marks. It's a lot of things that people want to know, man. And when you invest as much money as they did in that new stadium, something like $634 million, yeah, you're going to want to have a good team to play in that stadium. But as an analyst that I heard from the other day alluded to, he said, you know, they promised that city a new stadium. They never promised them a winning team. And that sucks, you know? So shout out to the Miami Marlins. I hope y'all figure it out, because if you don't, you're talking about a irritated fan base. I mean, you guys have already had problems in the past when you were the Florida Marlins. Now you moved to Miami, you know, a better place, better home, new stadium, $634 million project, and now you have to have a team in there. So I wouldn't be shocked if he declined this trade. If Bud Selig stepped in and pulled a David Stern and said, no, this one's not happening. So we'll see what happened, man. And that's pretty much it for MLB. I just wanted to glaze through it. Like I said, a few free agent pickups, a few new teams, a few things happening. I just wanted to show love. But there's really not that much going on in MLB. So we're going to keep it rolling, keep that thing moving to NCAA football. NCAA football, the BCS standings, the new number 1, Kansas State. Number 2, the Oregon Ducks. Number 3, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Now at number 4, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Number 5, my Georgia Bulldogs. Number 6, the Florida Gators. Number 7, LSU. Number 8, Texas A&M. Number 9, South Carolina. And at number 10, Florida State. There's been a lot going on this week, man. NCAA football. As you know, the biggest news, Texas A&M beat the Alabama Crimson Tide and knocked Alabama from the number 1 slot, man. Texas is playing great. Oh, my God. Texas A&M led by Johnny Manziel. He's been playing lights out. In other NCAA football news, my Georgia Bulldogs last week beat up on Auburn, which was not expected this bad. It was 38-0, man. Moved Georgia into the 5 slot. And my Michigan Wolverines moved up last week, beating Northwestern in overtime, 31-38. Devin Gardner played a great game. As you know, Denard Robinson has been hurt. He's messed up his throwing elbow and shoulder, so he hasn't been able to do much. And Devin Gardner is probably the best backup in college football. He's right there, man. Running, he's a better passer than Denard, hands down. And I like the way that he's taking hold of his team. This week, my Michigan Wolverines play Iowa. That should be a very good contest. We still don't know if Denard is going to start, but he probably doesn't need to. Devin's been playing great. Let him play. And it's been worried that Denard will start at running back because, his injury is stopping him from throwing the ball. But it has nothing to do with him running the ball. So we'll see how that works out for my Wolverines. We're still contending and we're trying to win the Big Ten, man. That's big for us. It's between us and those Cornhuskers in Nebraska. And with the Georgia Bulldogs, they're fighting for that bowl bid, man, that BCS bowl bid. It'd probably be Georgia and Alabama. Georgia's at number 5 right now. They're looking real good. They got some big games coming up. And we're going to see, man. We're going to see how it works out. Both my college teams are playing well, Michigan and the University of Georgia. And I hope they end strong, man. I really do. I hope they end strong because you don't want to have a season like this with all the positive and just kind of end with a thud, And Georgia has been known for not showing up in big games, blah, blah, blah. But they have this season. They've played well. I like Aaron Murray, the young quarterback. I think he's going to be just fine. That defense in Georgia, they're doing their thing, man. Jarvis Jones, he'll be a top NFL prospect. I show a lot of love to those Bulldogs, man, because they don't get a lot. Mark Richt is constantly being ripped, the Georgia Bulldog coach. And I don't think he's horrible. He has his issues like everybody else, but they'll be fine. Georgia plays today. They host Georgia Southern. So that should be a very good game, but a very, very winnable game for Georgia, to say the least. And that's pretty much it, man, for NCAA football. We're getting to the end of the season. Everybody trying to make those bowl bids, getting to these bowl games, man. Everybody wants to be on top. And I want my Wolverines to win the Big Ten. And I would like the Georgia Bulldogs to win the SEC. And I'm going to leave it there. We're going to keep this thing pushing forward because, as you know, it's more and more news, baby. We're keeping this thing cracking. And next up, we got NCAA basketball, which has just kicked off. And there was not a lot going on, not much in NCAA basketball. The year is kicking off, man. I just wanted to go over the top 25 with you guys, give you a little brief synopsis so everybody can get prepared because, as you know, sports waits for nobody. So the Division I polls, AP Top 25. Number 1 is Indiana, the Hoosiers. They got that boy Cody Zeller, the big 7-footer, who is going to hold it down and is going to carry that team. At number 2, you got Louisville with that dynamic offense, those dynamic scores. Of course, at 3, you have Kentucky. At 4, you have Ohio State. At 5, you have my Michigan Wolverines, who have not had this good of a team since probably the Fab Five. You got Tim Hardaway Jr., you got Glenn Robinson III, They got a lot of moving pieces on that Michigan Wolverines team, and I'm very excited. It's been a long time since we've had a great Michigan basketball team. You know, as you know, Michigan is mostly known for football, and we've struggled with that the past few seasons. That's another story. But again, right now my Michigan Wolverines are ranked, they're number 5 in the country. Number 6, you got North Carolina State. Number 7, you got Kansas. Number 8, you have Syracuse. Number 9, you have Duke. Number 10, you have Florida. Number 11, you have North Carolina, which is surprising, but they're probably climbing the ranks. Number 12, you have Arizona. 13, UCLA. 14, Missouri. 15, Creighton. 16, Baylor. 17, Memphis. 18, UNLV. 19, Gonzaga. 20, Notre Dame. At 21, Michigan State. 22, Wisconsin. 23, Connecticut. 24, Cincinnati. And rounding out the top 25 is San Diego State. Now, you know, it's extremely early. You know, they've played 3 games, NCAA. You know, a lot of teams are playing in those tournaments, the holiday tournaments, trying to build up their rep, you know, get ready for this. You know, everybody waits for March Madness, man. That's what it's all about. NCAA basketball, you know, shout out to y'all. I love y'all. But honestly, fans become fans during March Madness because right now we're trying to figure out who is who. You know, there's a lot of top players on a lot of these top teams, but this time next week, I guarantee you, this AP Top 25 will be completely different. So just keep up with college basketball, man. I know it's NFL season and NBA season kicking off, so it's kind of hard to watch everything. But pay attention, man, because these are your future NBA stars. That's why, me personally, that's why I've gotten into NCAA basketball, because I want to know these players before they come to my professional team. You know what I'm saying? And again, my Michigan Wolverines are in contention, so definitely keep out for that. Shout out to Tim Hardaway and his son. You know what I'm talking about? We got some stars on that team, man. So, yeah. That's NCAA. Like I said, not a lot. I just wanted to go over the top 25 to get you guys back in it, man. Get y'all back in the loop. And we got a few more things we're going to cover, and we're going to try to end this thing and keep it under an hour for the first time. There's been a little bit going on just in sports news. Shamika Holdsclaw, the ex-Olympian / ex-Tennessee Volunteer great basketball player and ex-WNBA star, was arrested and set for a $100,000 bond for shooting up her ex-girlfriend's car and knocking out the windows with a baseball bat. I mean, she went nuts, man. She's accused of firing a shot into a car belonging to her ex-29-year-old girlfriend, Jennifer Lacey, who plays for the Tulsa Shock now. Police say the 35-year-old Holdsclaw used the bat to smash the car's windows out. She's in custody at Fulton County Jail. And anybody knows anything about Fulton County Jail, that's no place I would want anybody to be, let alone a female. So shout out to you, Shamika. And I know she's had some depression issues and some things going on in her life. I don't know what the story is between these two or why she even has this problem, because from what I've heard, they've been broken up for a while. This is her ex-girlfriend. So I don't know if something was said or something was done. But, you know, you don't like to see stuff like this, man. And it's funny. You know, I hate to say it, but this is the most that's been brought out of WNBA news. We haven't heard anything WNBA, I haven't, about anybody that's been interesting. So it's sad that it had to be this type of story, but it's good for the WNBA because they get put back on that map. They get people remember that they're still around. Because, you know, a little backstory, these two, Shamika Holdsclaw and Jennifer Lacey, they started dating when they were teammates. Where at, ladies and gentlemen? In Atlanta, for the Atlanta Dream. And, yeah, like I said, I don't have the entire story of the who's, the what's, and the where's, and the why's. But for whatever reason, she was mad at Miss Lacey. And busted the windows out of her car and shot into the car. Now, you know, you didn't have to start shooting into the car. That's a bit extreme. You know, you bust a few windows, you get a slap on the wrist, you back at the house. But once you pull that pistol out, they got to lock you up, sweetheart. So, again, shout out to you, and I hope the situation gets resolved non-violently. And, you know, Miss Lacey is a beautiful woman, so she must have put something on you. And we just going to keep that thing rolling. And my last story in sports news is about U.S. soccer player 31 Miss Hope Solo, married Mr. Jeremy Stevens, the ex-tight end of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, apparently, the story behind this is these two got into a physical altercation 2 days before they were to be married, and they've been dating about 2 whole months. And apparently they had a party at the house. You know, I guess a pre-marriage party with friends and family. And it was about 3:45 in the morning, and they said they were drinking, of course. And there was a big argument about whether they would get married in Washington State, you know, where Jeremy Stevens lives, or in Florida, where Hope Solo was living. And it got ugly and it got physical, and pretty much Jeremy Stevens was arrested for 4th degree battery, I believe it was. Domestic violence charge. 4th degree domestic violence. Hope had a cut on her elbow, and apparently her brother was the one who called 911. And there were 3 or 4 other people at the house fighting and getting into it. So it got extremely interesting. And then 2 days later, they get married. You know, he gets out of jail and they get married. So we'll see how this story pans out, man. There's a lot of people on Twitter upset about this one. They feel like Hope is making a bad example for her fans, you know, being a woman. And, you know, a lot of people don't like Jeremy Stevens just for the fact that he was arrested for domestic violence. So I don't know, man. More will come out with this story. They probably got hammered and things got out of control. Somebody got mad at the other one. But it's kind of hard to talk about marriage when y'all been dating for 2 months. You know, come on, baby. There's only so much love I can have for you. 2 months is not a lot of time. So, you know, needless to say, we'll see how that thing pans out. That's our show, man. I'm running at about 53 minutes, so I think I've done an okay job. You know, I didn't have my Fernandi today. Holding down a sports show by yourself is not the easiest thing to do because you got to cover a lot of bases. But we did it today, baby. NFL, MLB, NBA, NCAA football, NCAA basketball, just sports news, period. We out here, man. We are the leader. We are the world's leader in sports news, entertainment, and information. Forget what everybody else is talking about. Real Talk Sports is where you want to be because we're going to keep that thing fresh, we're going to keep it funky, and we're going to make sure it feel good. So yeah, man, I'm going to get up out of here. I appreciate y'all for coming and kicking it with me. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, iTunes. We working our way into every site possible, man. Appreciate y'all. This has been Real Talk Sports Pod 19, NFL Week 11. Shout out to my Fernandi out there in the sports world doing their thing. Shout out to my boy Deshaun, man. He's making his move too in the sports world. Check him out on Blog Talk Radio Monday through Friday from 6:30 to 7 on the Minor Statement and Tate's Take. You know, we out here making moves, man. We support any and everybody who support us. So, again, holla at us. I'm your host, Scott Baker. It's been a great show. We've gotten a lot in. I look forward to everybody and everything next week in the sports and entertainment world. This is Real Talk Sports Pod 19, NFL Week 11. Love y'all. See y'all later. Mwah.